Now to a huge story in the world of motorsport. An iconic British F1 team is linking up with an iconic F1 driver for a project outside of F1. For more of this, we can cross to New York City and join NBC and Sky Sports IndyCar commentator Lee Diffie, who can bring us the news, and he's alongside the man who is the news. What's the story, Lee?
Well, Craig, the story is, I guess, pretty obvious, isn't it, here in New York City? I have to say that this is the very studio where we made the worldwide announcement that NBC Sports, and then, of course, Sky Sports, would have access to the entire NTT IndyCar season just about 18 months ago. So it's appropriate that we're here to announce that Fernando Alonso will be driving for Arrow McLaren SP at the 104th running of the Indianapolis 500 this year. That sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Yeah,
it sounds good. Obviously, it's one of the most iconic races in motorsport calendar, and I'm extremely happy to be in the month of May again. After last year, we had some issues, and it was not the race we were expecting. But this year we go again, and with the aim to do well and to win the race.
Don't really want to talk about last year. I want to go back to 2017, where you led 27 laps in the race, and you really got your first big taste, and you understood the flavour of the Indy 500. That flavour hasn't gone away, has it?
Yeah, definitely. I think once you experience Indy 500, it will remain always in your heart. The fans are amazing, the show is unbelievable, and the race itself, why, is one of the greatest in the calendar. And in 2017 we had the real chance to be competitive and to feel that adrenaline, and racing in ovals is a little bit different. The speed, the adrenaline, everything is quite up, and looking forward to this year.
I think when people hear this announcement, they may not be that surprised. Oh yeah, it's Alonso, it's McLaren, now Arrow McLaren SP. That seems a natural fit. But it hasn't always been that way. You've had to work to get this deal together. I'm sure there's a sense of relief now, yeah?
Yeah, we had some conversations, and I already said last year I wanted to explore more options. I have been talking with Andretti Autosport as well, and some other teams that, especially Andretti and McLaren, that are the ones that I feel in my heart, and they've been always like my family from 2017 with Andretti. And at the end, I think it was the natural choice for me to go with McLaren, especially after last year. And I think we give to the fans something back, after the disappointment of last year.
It's a really significant year. Significant for the fact that the McLaren name will be back in IndyCar Series racing full-time for the first time since the late 1970s. That's pretty special.
It is. I think McLaren is one of those teams that are part of motorsport, and now being in the Formula One World Championship and the IndyCar in the full championship as well, doing all the races, that shows, and proves how McLaren is committed to the sport, and I think the fans will love that commitment.
It's a rather short question. I'm sure it's a much longer answer, but why come back? Why do the 500? You've gone off Dakar Rally this year. You've won Le Mans, you've won the Rolex 24 at Daytona. You're showing and making a lot of your peers envious of all of these wonderful events that you're doing. Was it the fact that this one got away from you a few years ago that you just can't sit, you can't let it go?
Yeah, I think the Indy 500 is one of the most special races, and also the Triple Crown, which means winning in Formula One, in the Endurance Championship with the 24-hour of Le Mans, and the Indy 500, completes a little bit the big three races in motorsport. And also in that three completely different disciplines, with three very different as well driving styles, and it makes you quite a complete driver, and that's why I'm looking forward now in this stage of my career. So, the Indy 500 is probably the biggest priority for me right now.
There will be a lot of your F1 fans watching on Sky Sports at the moment, and here on NBC Sports as well, that would be intrigued to hear your description of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Only 4 corners, but 4 corners that drive differently, all very, very different corners. Tell us what it's like to go around the Speedway.
Well, I think it's something very unique. Oval racing is unique already, but the Indianapolis Speedway is even more. It's a huge place. All the facilities there are quite big, and the circuit itself, as you said, there are only 4 corners, but all of them are very different between each other. And it's not only that, it's the traffic, is the slipstream, is the strategy, is the tire degradation, the downforce that you run always differently, comparing practice, the race itself, every pit stop you are adjusting a little bit the downforce. So even if it seems a simple way to drive, I think over the 200 laps of the race, you never repeat the same line or the same speed, in any of the laps. So it's quite difficult to adjust, these minimum settings that you have to do in the car and on the driving style as well.
Only 4 corners on the oval course at the Brickyard, but there's also, as you well know, there is a road course in the middle. The Grand Prix of Indianapolis happens 2 weeks before. Could we think that we might see you in that as a little bit of a warm-up?
Well, I know that some of the big guys, they are doing that as a preparation, like Helio, Castro Neves, and some of the most experienced guys in IndyCar, they're trying to do the Indy GP as a preparation. Now that McLaren is doing the full championship, there is a possibility that, we may think about that. But, right now is the Indy 500, and in the next couple of weeks, we will decide how the preparation will go.
For all of the amazing events that you've been a part of and that you've witnessed and that you've enjoyed, whether it be racing in front of your home fans in Spain, whether it be the Monaco Grand Prix, were you blown away by the spectacle of the Indy 500?
Definitely. I think the Indy 500 is on top of all the events that I ever participated. And the atmosphere, the adrenaline, the traditions that they get involved with the Indy 500, with all the celebrations before the race. Even the milk. There is this thing with the milk that arrives on Sunday morning in a fridge, and it goes to the pagoda. And there are things that, as a driver, you understand. The importance of the moment, and how big is that race, worldwide.
So let's break away from IndyCar for just a moment, because of all of the other events that you have done. Did you catch the Daytona 500, in particular the finish with Ryan Newman in the crash? What did you make of that? And were you as surprised as we all were to see him walk out of hospital just a couple of days later?
Yeah, I was surprised, and I was extremely happy. All the accidents that you see on television, they look bad. When you are at home, they look spectacular. All the cars, they broke in 1,000 pieces, and you never want to see that. But thanks God, he was fine, and that proves also how motorsport safety improves over the years. Sure. And I think on that aspect, I think NASCAR and Daytona as well, the Speedway, they are doing a good job on over the years.
That'll be something you'll have to get used to too. You'll have the aero screen when you drive IndyCar. That'll be something different. Yeah,
I'm looking forward. I think from the outside it looks nice, and the cars, they look better than with a halo, for example, that we are used in Formula One. But I don't know how it looks from the inside. I don't know also in rain conditions. I saw in Kota during the test that it seemed okay. So I'm really looking forward.
Well, speaking of Formula One, Lewis Hamilton is going for a 7th Drivers' World title this year. Simple question, is he going to get it?
I think so. I think so. Looking at the test, it seems that Mercedes is still quite competitive, and they show again enormous potential on the developing side and on the progress from one year to the next. And Formula One is impossible to predict because many things happen during the season. But as a starting point, I think they are the favorites. And when you have Lewis in the car and Mercedes with the potential that they have, they have to be #1 favorite.
And only 7 wins away from tying Michael for all-time race wins. It's an incredible moment in Formula One history. I know, Craig, you had a couple of questions for Fernando yourself.
You talked about how well Mercedes looked in that first test. What did you make of that DAS device, that push-pull steering, and could it be a championship winner for them?
I don't know exactly the system, how it works, and we can only speculate from the outside and all the things that we are talking right now. But only for them, or they know for sure what is doing to the car and what are the benefits that they are taking from that. But I guess that is not a big factor. It's not like the DRS or the FDAC or something that it gives you half a second or 6/10 or 4/10. I think it's just a fine-tuning setup. So, I think it's more, the potential and the demonstration that they give to everyone. That they keep on top of the game and they don't relax. Even if they are world champions. So I think that's probably the biggest message, that they send with this DAS system.
Yeah. And McLaren looked good again. They had a good season last year, took a step forward. Can they take a step forward this year? And if they do, would that help make up your mind about maybe coming back to F1 in 2021? And at what point in the year will you make that decision?
I don't think that is going to be linked necessarily to McLaren performance. I think they did well last year, and I hope this year they make another step forward and they are close to the top 3 because they deserve, and they are a fantastic team. In my case, it's going to be probably during the summer period where I will make a decision on what I do in 2021. If Formula One still appealing to me, and yeah, the 2021 rules are definitely a step forward, and hopefully things can be a little bit more mixed, and not only 3 teams, they are capable of winning races. So if all these factors they enter into play, I may consider that possibility, but right now the Indy 500 will take all my concentration.
And Craig, speaking of 2021, you may have seen this news already, but because of motorsport's renaissance man, Fernando Alonso, news came out just recently that 7-time NASCAR champion Jimmy Johnson, who will step away from NASCAR full-time at the end of this season, in 2021, because of his friendship and influence of this guy, Jimmy's going to experiment and do some IndyCar races. He'd also like to maybe do Le Mans. He'd like to maybe do the Baja 1000 again, do Dakar Rally. That's a pretty nice compliment to you.
Yes, I know Jimmy, and he's capable of doing all these things and winning all those things because he has a huge talent. And yeah, I've been talking to him last year when we swapped the rides with the Formula One and the NASCAR, and I think the biggest issue was his wife, that she was worried about the head protection. So now that the IndyCar went for the Aeroscreen, I think he has the green light.
I think there's a family deal, though, no ovals.
All right. Yeah,
just road and street courses. But anyway, the future is bright and exciting.
Thank you very much, Lee. Thank you, Fernando. Yes, to be an all-time great, I think you do have to be an all-round driver. Can Fernando Alonso join Graham Hill as the owner of that motorsport Triple Crown? It's another excellent reason for everyone to tune in on May the 24th and hear Lee's commentary in that Indy 500 live on Sky Sports.